me, it's a great pleasure to be here and to share some core ideas of my book. Yeah? So, how to end procrastination? Who knows? Well, I should know something about it because I spent last 5 years of my life with my book, and today I want to present to you some really new and core ideas out of the book. So my name is Peter, and I'm originally from Prague, and 3 months ago I moved to New York because of the book. The book was already been published in 10 languages, 5 more are coming, and for example there's a Japanese version, Korean version, Chinese versions coming soon, and today we are here because of this first book, because the book is now published here in the US and in Canada. For me, it was so funny that like half a year ago I was in Japan, in Tokyo, and I saw my book in a bookstore in Tokyo. And for me it was like, wow, that's crazy to teach Japanese to not to procrastinate. It's the highest rank you ever can get. And now the book is here in US. And for me, it's incredible because you can find the book almost everywhere, all major bookstores. The book is at airports like LAX and even at the JFK. So the book is literally everywhere. And I really believe that this year is going to be the best year for the book and for us, for me and my team. And thank you to our publisher and our agent. They helped us a lot. Well, I have a big team. I have 35 people in a company named Procrastination.com. We bought the domain with procrastination and .com. It's great. But I left my team half a year ago. I found a new CEO and I moved here. So I left everything behind and I'm starting here from scratch. So you can see that I'm living the full American dream now. Well, and I took only one colleague with me, that's Adela. She's my co-author, and she helped me a lot with the book. She found our agent, and she helped me with translation, so we spent literally thousands of hours together. And so the book is like our kid, but I take Adela as my sister. So maybe you know Game of Thrones. No, bad joke. And now I want to share some core values we share, and those values, they really shape the final version of the book. I really love simplicity. I really love the quote that is follows like, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. This quote is attributed to Albert Einstein. Probably he never said that, but doesn't matter. Sorry, Albert. I love the quote, so I'm going to use it otherwise. And I really love minimalism. Minimalism is very important these days. We live in a very complex world. So this is, for example, my flat in Prague. I was minimalist even before it was cool. And my attitude to minimalism really shaped the final version of the book. And I really love Japan. I spent every year more than 1 month in Japan. So I really love Kyoto and Japanese minimalism. And it really also shaped my values. So the first value is simplicity. That's why the book has more than 100 of pictures, simple diagrams, and you really can understand it easily. The second value is usefulness. I'm an engineer. So for me, it's quite crucial to go to the core of ideas and to get rid of the crap around. So I really like to use some tools that everyone can deploy on an everyday basis. So the book is full of tools. And the last value is science-based, because these days science knows what to do. Yeah, we have a lot of good and quality research on motivation, on decision-making. We have a lot of studies out of field of behavioral economics, but there is a huge gap between what science knows and what people actually do in their normal life. And our mission is to bridge this gap. So there is a lot of low-quality information all around. We live in the world that is called post-truth society. Internet is full of myths, internet is full of fake news, but not only in politics, even in health and even in personal development. Let's say like 99% of what you can read on internet, what you can find in bookstores, let's say it's a bit crap, yeah. And I don't like this kind of personal development bullshit, so I want to fight with that with critical thinking. And what is very important to me is this simple diagram. On this axis is knowledge, and on the second axis is confidence. And it should be like this, yeah? More knowledge you have, more confident you are. But the reality is like this. This is called Dunning-Kruger effect, and the last chapter of my book is about this phenomenon. Because people, if they read like 2-3 articles on internet, they are 100% sure. And this is the problem. Yeah? Those people, they comment on internet the most, and they have the strongest opinions on everything. Yeah? And populists, their target is those people. More information you have, more humble you are. So with wisdom comes humbleness. And the experts, they never reach the same level of confidence than those people have. So this is very important, and that's why critical thinking is crucial. Critical thinking and evidence-based approach is a core of what we do. And I think it's very important in this day and age. So, and there's a lot of scientific books. They are very evidence-based, like Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And there are very simple books, like Still Like an Artist, that is a New York Times bestseller, or The Word of Art. I want to be somewhere in the middle. Yeah? I want to be very simple with pictures, but evidence-based. So that's the main difference, and that's the reason why I think that the book is successful all around the globe. On Czech market, we sold more than 100,000 of copies. The book became #1 bestseller in our category, and I want to have the same success here because I think that the world is connected and everyone has problem with procrastination. So that's the beginning. And let's dig into the topic of procrastination. So what is the definition? As I said, I like pictures, so I have a visual definition. We have tasks to do. We have time dedicated to those tasks. And how this simple problem is solved by procrastinators? Well, often like this, yeah? Procrastination is about postponing tasks to the very last moment, and it is always connected with negative feelings, with emotions like anxiety, emotions like if you feel that you are losing something, you are demotivated, and so on. So if you don't have negative emotion, it's not procrastination, it's a pure laziness. And that's the main difference. So what is not procrastination? As I said, procrastination is not laziness. Lazy people, they don't want to do nothing, and they are completely fine with that. So if you are just lazy, it's fine. And procrastination is not having a rest, because if you are having a rest, your energy goes up. But if you are procrastinating, your energy is drained from you. So more you procrastinate, less energy you have, and there is a higher chance that you procrastinate even more. So, and that's the main problem. Like, we are in a world full of distractions. We have social media, we have Facebook, we have Netflix, we have Instagram, and we are constantly being distracted. So, very good solution of fighting procrastination is to have a regular rest, but without distraction. Yeah. So I don't teach people to be workaholists. I teach them how to focus on what is important, and it means that even regular rest is one of the core factors that everyone deploy. I'm gonna discuss it later. So now let me just spend some minutes about the history of procrastination. The phenomenon is old as we live on this planet. Even ancient philosophers like Seneca, they mentioned the problem of procrastination. Seneca told, while wasting our time hesitating and postponing, lives go on. And in this simple sentence, there is a core why procrastination is something bad. Because if we are procrastinating, postponing, we are losing our time. And I want to say that our time is the most valuable resource everyone has. Yeah? Because it's not money. You can borrow money, you can find money, but with time, it doesn't work like that. Yeah? Every minute that is wasted forever. So time is important. And while we are wasting our time hesitating, postponing, and procrastinating, lives go on. And I think that in these days, everyone wants to live a fulfilled life. Yeah? Life with positive emotions, good relationships, meaning at work, and so on. But on the way to that fulfilled life, there is a hole of procrastination, and a lot of our time is wasted there in that hole. One research, it shows that people between 20 and 30 years, they spend with procrastination approximately 40 hours weekly. 40 hours weekly is a lot. So a lot of our potential is wasted somewhere there. And my mission is to help people to fight procrastination. You never win forever. Yeah, the procrastination will be always there, but you can decrease it, let's say, about 70, 80%. So it's not to win forever, but the main mission is to decrease it significantly. And how about procrastination today? What are the main reasons that it's getting worse and worse? Because the data shows us that we procrastinate more than people before 5 years, before 10 years. So it's getting worse, and there are some reasons. This is my favorite graph. It shows how the average lifespan evolved in last 10,000 of years. You can see that the average lifespan was 25 years since history, but it was doubled in last century. So we live approximately 2 times longer than almost all our ancestors. A huge impact on that was the decline of child mortality. The child mortality went down by 90% in last century. That's cool because our kids are not dying. So a lot of diseases that they were killing millions of people, like mumps, like polio, like rubella, they were solved. So yeah, it's very important to see the difference. Us compared to someone living in the Middle Ages, our quality of life is completely amazing compared to their quality of life. Let's see some progress in technologies. Like the first airplane was built in the year 1903, and they went only 300 meters with that first airplane. Wright brothers made that incredible advancement. And in 66 years, we reached the moon. So can you imagine the progress from there to there in only 66 years? That's incredible. A few years ago, we reached Mars with Curiosity. And Elon Musk, he wants to reach Mars in a few years. I believe that maybe we will be the first generation we really experience that we reach the Mars with some people on the rocket, in the rocket. And how about our happiness? What do you think? Is happiness increasing or decreasing, or is it the same? So who think that we are happier than people 50, 100 years ago? Who think we are happier? Who think that we are less happy? Yeah, like 90%. Who think that we are the same? Yeah. Okay, I have some data, and it seems that the happiness level is on the same and slightly decreasing. And what are the reasons? What are the reasons? One main reason is complexity. Like, we live in a world that is very chaotic, and we have the same brain as people have like 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago. So we have the same brain as ancient Greece had. But if you look around, the complexity is much different. And our ancestors, they thought that more options, if we have more options, we will be more happy. So if you compare and if you imagine those options as a pair of scissors, we are in the moment that we have plenty of choices. The imaginary scissors are opening wider and wider, with freedom and with freedom of choices. And our ancestors thought that this is the key to happiness. Increase the freedom, increase the happiness. No, it doesn't work like that. That's the main problem of today's society. And that's not happy. Yeah. Science causes decision paralysis, and it means that more choices you have, the more difficult it is to choose something. So complexity really is increasing procrastination. So that's why we procrastinate more and more, because the complexity grows up. So the solution of this is, that's example, when you go shopping, you have like 40 kinds of ketchups, you have 50 kinds of toothbrushes, and you are not happy to choose out of that. You have a little depression and you cannot choose at all. So that's the decision paralysis, and to solve decision paralysis is the key to understand procrastination. And the key is to really narrow the scissors, to be able to say no to some options and to choose only a few options and to focus only on them. Less priorities you have, the greater chance is that you will complete those priorities. So it's again about minimalism. It's again about simplicity. One quote follows like, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Steve Jobs loved this quote, and he put it on the box of Apple II. That was the first successful Apple computer. So simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So the core of my book is to simplify the life, to find some key priorities and to focus on them and be able to get rid of the crap around. So what is the key? In one sentence. I always I'm asked to summarize my book in one sentence. That's you always want to hear this as an author. And I found one sentence that really describes what is my book about. And it is a Japanese proverb. As I said, I love Japanese culture. I spent a lot of time in Japan. And you can find some very, very wise ideas in all Japanese mythology. And my favorite proverb follows like this. Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. And, well, actually, it's not one sentence, it's two sentences, sorry. But it really describes two main problems people actually have in these days. The first part, vision without action. Those are those New Year's resolutions. If people really want to exercise more, I'm gonna ask you, who wants exercise more than he does, please? Who wants to eat healthier than he does? And who is postponing and snoozing alarm clock in the morning? Please tell me. You see. Vision without action is a daydream. We know what to do, but we don't have a willpower to start. That's the first reason why we procrastinate that much. The second problem is even worse. Action without vision is a nightmare. Sometimes we describe this like corporate depressions. You are working on something, but you don't see a purpose of that. You don't see the meaning in what you do. And that action without vision can be really a nightmare. We are experiencing like increased level of depression worldwide, and studies shows us that one of the main reasons is lack of meaning at work. The solution of that is simple, to find both. To find a vision, to find purpose in life and at work, and then to have a willpower to really start to do something. So it's about some habits and overcoming bad habits, and it's about training of willpower, because willpower works like muscle, you can train it. And if you have a vision, and then if you have an action, then you become happy. Our brain works like this, yeah, because it's hardwired. When you do something meaningful, and you actually do it, then your dopamine and serotonin level goes up, and you experience the emotion of what is called in psychology emotion of flow. Yeah, you are in the moment, and you are happy in that moment. So in this simple diagram, there is a solution how to fight procrastination, and not only to fight procrastination, even how to find joy in life, the happiness in life. And all my book is divided into those 3 sections. First chapter is about how to fight vision. Second chapter is about action, about willpower. The third action is about happiness, on how to handle failure. And the last chapter is about critical thinking, about that Dunning-Kruger effect. So, and now I want to share some 2 main ideas out of first 2 chapters. So from the chapter vision and from the chapter action. Personal vision, the word is very difficult to define. Yeah? So I'm going to try to define the word, what is personal vision? And I start with the value of time again, because I really think that we often forget about the value of time. We were born in one moment, and the destiny we all share is that our lives will somewhere in the end end too. We cannot do nothing about that. But what is important is that the time we have is in our hands and is both limited and both finite. And to ask what to invest our time in, to ask what is the purpose of life here, is one crucial question. And there is a research on the fact that if someone knows what to do with his or her life, he has more intrinsic motivation, he's more resistant against stress and depression, and he can handle better failure. On the opposite side, the lack of purpose, the lack of meaning in life can do the opposite. It can increase the chance of cardiovascular diseases, increase the risk of stroke, and increase the chance of depression. So this question is one of the main questions we have to answer by our own. Yeah, once my client came to me and he told me he's gonna pay me to solve this problem for him. Yeah. He asked me, "Oh, can you write me my personal vision?" I was like, "No, it's your only one task. You only have to solve by your own." So, yeah, that's the first chapter. And there was a huge research on people just before death. And the research, the outcome was that people in their lives do not regret what they did, but what they didn't. So at the end, we really feel sorry about the time we wasted, about decisions we never did, and so on. So if we don't want to regret at the end, we should fight procrastination in the present moment, to focus on what is important and just do it. Just do it. Yeah. And I have 2 stories from my life that I realized that this is very important. First story is covered in my book in the first pages. And it was 14 years ago. I was playing basketball, and I felt something strange in my right arm. It's just like, I didn't know what was that. And after a couple of hours, half of my body was completely paralyzed. I had some kind of brain malfunction. And I was lying in the bed, and I really thought that I'm at the end of my life. It was one of the strongest moments. Still, I feel it very strongly. And there is a group of people, they survive this, and there is a group of people, they don't. And I didn't know in what group I am. So I was scared, and I experienced something that is called near-death experience. It's really like in movies. You see the tunnel with the light at the end, and facing your own death is not scary, it's sad. Yeah? You are like, okay, I'm gonna die. Well, yeah, it's coming. but the good part of this story is that I survived without any side effects. And for me, it was like a life-changing moment. After that, I started to do my own business. I started to focusing on what is important in my life. And then I come up to the idea that I really should fight procrastination, because procrastination is the main enemy to live the life to the fullest. So that was 14 years ago, and it really changed my life. And I experienced almost the same 3 years ago. I was a different story. Yeah? I took a plane from Amsterdam to Prague, and luckily, there was a problem. I will read it for you. There was a blast of sparks at the right engine, and then a regular fire before the engine shut down. Well, I was sitting just next to that engine. So, and it was very loud. It was like, and we had to perform emergency landing. Emergency landing is the moment you have to have your head in your in your legs, and you are waiting. And that was our trajectory. That was our path. And then we had to land. So, and those 20 minutes were the longest 20 minutes in my life again. Yeah? And it was so similar to the first moment I described before. Because if you are facing your own death, you really think what you did well, what you didn't. You are thinking what are your accomplishments, what to do. And even if you are a complete atheist, you start to do okay, if I survive this, I will be the better person, and so on. So in the moment we landed, it was one of the best moments in my life. So if you want to teach something, buy that kind of workshop. Yeah, but it's difficult to do that kind of workshop because, yeah, you have to be in the moment. You don't know that you're going to survive. So why I'm sharing those two stories is that for me, the value of time is very important. For me, every new day is a bonus day because I already had those two events. So now I really want to focus on what is important, and I don't want to waste my time. So that's why I'm fighting procrastination, because I think it's the main enemy for living the happy and fulfilled life. The second important idea is that all of us, we should find the best way how to motivate ourselves. Motivation, there is hundreds of studies on motivation. And one of the biggest meta-analysis of all those research, it shows us that what doesn't work is extrinsic motivation, like the carrot and stick. Why this motivation doesn't work? Well, if you do something and you don't want to do that, if you do it just because someone is trying to push you, if there is a stick on you, you are unhappy. And in that moment, you are not just unhappy, you have lower rate of serotonin and dopamine. Those are substances in the brain, and they not just influence our happiness, and they also influence our creativity, some memory and communication skills and so on. So under pressure, our brain works very badly. It doesn't work very well. So this kind of motivation, it worked on some manual tasks. Yeah? More you push, faster you are. So that's why it worked in a history. If you were somewhere in ancient Greece and you were rowing on a ship and someone was hitting you, you were rowing faster and faster. But now we see a lot of evidence that if the task needs a brain, if the task needs creativity, extrinsic motivation doesn't work. It can decrease your productivity. So what works is intrinsic motivation. But there are two kinds of that. Yeah. So first, intrinsic motivation is intrinsic motivation by goals. Many personal development books, they are focusing on goals and on setting goals in private life. But it can backfire. I can show you how. If you set a goal, you think, okay, I will be satisfied if I reach the goal. I will be happy if I buy that car. I will be happy if I reach some position on corporate ladder. I will be happy if I build a house, and so on and so on. If you are focusing on a goal, it can motivate you. So it's intrinsic motivation, it works, but on the way towards the goal, you are not that much happy because you still missing something. You missed the goal. So if you want to be happy because you want to buy a new car and you don't have it, you are not happy because you don't have it. So, and if you reach the goal, if you buy the car, if you finish your master, if you finish your high school, if you build a house, well, the happiness goes up, of course. But the problem is what is called hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is the phenomenon that really influence our happiness. After few hours, maybe a few days, the baseline of happiness, it goes back again. Yeah. So trying to guess how long is approximately happiness if you finish your university. Few hours, maybe a few days again. And if you reach the biggest goals, like win Olympic medal, gold Olympic medal, or win the Nobel Prize, the happiness is approximately 1 week. Yeah. So that's the problem. They call it hedonic adaptation, and that's why the goals are not the key to long-term happiness. Because what people, if they are focused on goals, what they do, they set another and even bigger goal. And they are chasing the goal again, and if they reach the goal, they experience short-term happiness, and they set another goal, and so on and so on. And we call those people, in the book, goal junkies, because they are really addicted to reaching bigger and bigger goals. Maybe you know those people. They are buying bigger cars. They are focusing on reaching higher and higher, like corporate hierarchy level, and so on and so on. So orientation only on goals can backfire in two things. You are not happy before you have a goal, and if you have it, it's very short term. But there is a solution, and the solution is the third kind of motivation. We call it intrinsic motivation by path. Maybe you know the old saying, like the path is the destination, and it's really, this path is very important to focus on, and recent studies shows that focusing on path leads to a higher level of happiness, higher level of productivity, less stress, and so on. So I'm gonna explain you this kind of motivation in detail. If you set personal vision is not the group of goals. The personal vision describes what to focus on in the present moment. So if in my vision is to help people fight procrastination, I can do it today and I can do it in 10 years. So it's a difference between orientation to path and the orientation towards the goals. And if you fulfill the vision, you feel happy in the present moment. We call it the happiness now. And psychology call this the state of flow. You are doing something, time stops for you, and you really enjoy what you do. And this kind of state of flow has two ingredients. One is to see purpose in what you do, and the second is to increase your skills, like the mastery. You are improving while you are doing the thing. So this is the exact opposite of procrastination. So the flow state is exact opposite of procrastination. So better the personal vision is, more skilled you are, more positive emotions you have, and more often you are in the state of flow. Yes, time stops for you, and you are much more productive. And you are less depressed, and you have higher level of serotonin and dopamine, you are more creative, and so on and so on. So this is the key. This is the key to happiness. So, and science shows us there is a huge meta-analysis again, and people, they usually think that our happiness works like this, yeah? First results, then happiness. That's the mindset of people that are focusing on goals. Yeah? They think that if I buy that car, I'm gonna be happy. If I reach that something, I'm gonna be happy. No, it's exactly opposite way. If you are happy in the present moment, if you are in a state of flow, you get more results. So this is like life-changing idea. It's very simple, but if you understand it, it can really change your everyday mood and everyday productivity. And it was nicely said by one guy who won a Nobel Prize in the year 1952 by Albert Schweitzer. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. So, simple sentence again, but it's really like mindset. It can really change your mindset. Mindset changing. So, and there is last ingredient. The first was value of time. The second was intrinsic motivation by path, rather than focusing on goals. And the last ingredient of happy and fulfilled life is meaning. And that guy saved 650 Jewish people before Second World War, Mr. Sir Nicholas Winton, and he lived up to his 106 years. And I have him like example of what we called Ego 2.0. I'm gonna explain you now. There are two things we do in our lives. The first is Ego 1.0. Those are actions that we do for ourselves. They are like selfish acts. If I eat something, I do it for myself. If I sleep, I do it for myself. If I do sports, I do it for myself. But that's not everything. After Ego 1.0, there is Ego 2.0. That's what Mr. Winton did. Ego 2.0 are actions we do not for ourselves, but we do for the others. So Ego 2.0 are, let's say, selfless acts. We help stranger. We do something that's beyond us. And we have circuits in our brain, so are here, that are activated if we do something for the others. And we feel stronger positive emotions when we are performing Ego 2.0 than if we do Ego 1.0. So the key to happiness is not to be selfish. And we have a lot of research now these days that Ego 2.0 is key to longevity. We have a lot of big studies on longevity, and it shows us that humble people, they live longer. Isn't it cool that evolution works good in that? And selfish people, they have higher chance of cardiovascular diseases, stroke, and so on. So that's cool. So be more Ego 2.0. And there's one Japanese word that really describes this. It's ikigai. And the word ikigai is from Okinawa. Okinawa is my favorite Japanese island. It's between Japan and Taiwan. They have beautiful beaches. And the capital, Naha, is the city where people have the longest lifespan around the globe. live approximately 5 to 10 years longer than we do in Western world. So what's the key of longevity on Okinawa? Well, they eat healthy, that's true. They have beautiful beaches, as I said. They survived the Battle of Okinawa. That was the toughest battle of one of the toughest battles of Second World War. But that's not the core reason. The core reason is ikigai. And in studies, they describe ikigai like strong sense of purpose. Strong sense of purpose, in Japanese, ikigai. And a study found that a strong sense of purpose was associated with a 72% lower rate of death from stroke, 44% lower rate of death from cardiovascular diseases, and 38% lower rate of death from any cause. Those are like cancers and so on. So we have data that really having a strong sense of purpose correlate with longevity. So it's very important. And Japanese, they define ikigai as a connection of 4 circles. First circle of ikigai is when you do something, what are you good at? Yeah? So the strengths are very important. Focusing on your strengths is very important. It's also important for flow, because as I said, if you master some skills, then you have more flow. So this really resonates with the research about flow. The second circle is that you do what you like to do. So positive emotions are important. Higher level of dopamine and serotonin is important. The third circle is the ego 2.0. That's the meaning. You do something what the world needs. And it can be small, it can be even small thing. Like you don't need to save the world, but you should, for example, help stranger, you should help your colleague to your client and so on. So focusing on the others is the third part of ikigai. And the last one is, of course, what you can get paid for. Money is important, but not that much. Yeah? Only when you reach the level, when your primary needs are covered, then money has almost no impact on your happiness. So if you have no money, you are not happy. If you have just enough money, you are more happy. But those 3 are the core. So those 4 circles together, Japanese call it ikigai, and I really found it very, very useful. So that was the first part, focusing on vision. And for the first practical tool is to try to write down the personal vision. So in the book there are some tools that can help you to like uncover your strengths. There are some questionnaires about what to focus on in life in terms of meaning and so on. So personal vision, for me, is the core of the book, and it's the connection between purpose in life and purpose at work, because we all spend like 1/3 of our lives in work, and it's important to do something that is meaningful for us. In exact opposite, those are corporate depressions. Like people are doing something, they have big salaries, but they don't see any meaning of what they do. So purpose in life and purpose at work are both solutions to fight procrastination. And I advise you to try to really put it somewhere on paper, because when you are thinking about that, it helps you, because people, they always think that, okay, it's somewhere in my head, but the problem of the brain is that we are forgetting, and we are forgetting even the most important things, like what is the purpose of our life. So write it down and try to work on it in a long term. So that was the first part of the book, and the first main ideas, like focusing on value of time, intrinsic motivation by path, and ego 2.0, and together the concept of ikigai. The second part is an action, how to really force ourselves to do something, to actually start. And why we are so poor in that? Why is it so difficult to really start to run tomorrow? Why is it so difficult to get up with the first alarm clock? Because the reason is somewhere hidden somewhere in our brains. And I'm gonna show you where and what to do with that. Yeah. we have this part of brain that is called prefrontal cortex. It's a very young part of brain, and that's the part of the brain where willpower is hidden. We have a data these days that stronger your prefrontal cortex is, better willpower you have. And it's very important, you can improve it during the time. You can strengthen your willpower if you train it. Because brain has ability that is called neuroplasticity. That is unstimulated brain and that is stimulated brain. So you can really improve your brain like you can improve your muscles. If you do 20 push-ups every day, and if I measure your muscles, you will see that your muscles are growing. And if I use fMRI, the brain scan, and if I scan your brain every day, I can find the same in your brain. Yeah? Your brain's getting stronger and stronger. So this is the key of this chapter, because no one is lost forever. Yeah? Even the biggest procrastinators, they really can change themselves with this phenomenon of neuroplasticity. So everyone can train his muscle, and everyone can train his prefrontal cortex and improve his willpower. The human brain consists of 3 parts. The oldest part is reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain focuses on instincts. You cannot control this part of the brain. You cannot commit suicide by stop breathing. You can try it after the presentation, and you will see that you cannot do that. If you do that, you win a book. The second part of the brain is the limbic brain, limbic system. And it's very old, many millions of years, and it is focused on, it is evolved in emotions. And then we have the youngest brain, the neocortex, and it's like this part, the prefrontal cortex, that is evolved in rational thinking and willpower. And this part of the brain is only hundreds of thousands years old, so it's much younger than those 2 that are millions of years old. And if you scan the brain, you see the difference. The path from emotional brain to rational one, it's like a highway. There's a lot of connections from emotions to our rational brain, but the connection backwards are very, there is less connections backwards, and they are not that strong. So it means that our decision-making is really influenced by emotions more than by our rational thinking. Yeah, Daniel Kahneman got the Nobel Prize of Economy in the year 2002. He and his colleague started the field of behavioral economics, and the main idea is that our decision-making is really, really shaped by our brain and by its structure. So we have some biases, and one of the strongest bias is that our decision-making is influenced by our emotions. That's the reason why we are procrastinating, because we know what to do, but only our rational brain knows that, but the emotional brain, it wants to have another beer, it wants to watch another movie, and it wants to do like crazy things, yeah. And to imagine, to sum this picture up, we use a very simple allegory: elephant and rider. It's all Buddhist model, but it's used by psychologists like Jonathan Haidt. And you can imagine you have like wild elephant and the rider that is trying to like go somewhere with the elephant. And as the rider should know how to like force the elephant to go, he should understand how the elephant like works and so on. Similarly, all of us can be divided into 2 separated parts, like the emotional elephant, it symbolizes the emotional limbic system, and the rational rider. So the good news is that you don't procrastinate. Your elephant does. And learn how to tame your elephant is crucial for fighting procrastination. Because we have very huge meta-analysis about procrastination, the biggest one, and it shows us that the main reason why we procrastinate is a lack of self-regulation. It's lack of the ability of the rider to tame the elephant. And how to do that? Yeah, how to do that? Self-regulation is very important. It's a skill of overcoming, for example, negative feelings. If you want to start to run tomorrow, you always have negative feelings because it's cold outside, you don't know how to start, and so on. And self-regulation is the ability to push yourself against those negative feelings. And in opposite, self-regulation is ability to resist temptations. Yeah, there is a Facebook somewhere in your pocket, and if you are good in self-regulation, you are able to resist. So that's self-regulation, and we can train it. As I said, our willpower can be trained like muscle. And our willpower, you can imagine it like a glass of water. More tired you are, less willpower you have. So after 8 hours of work, your willpower is decreased. So if you try to push your elephant somewhere, your willpower is decreasing. And if it's drained out, your rational part fall asleep, and the elephant is the leader now. So that's why when you are tired, you procrastinate more. When you are tired, you have a higher chance of addictions and so on and so on. So that's why regular rest is so important. Because during the day, you can restart the glass. Yeah? You can restart your willpower. Even with 5 minutes walk around the block of building, it can really restart your willpower. These days, there is a lot of research about mindfulness. Those are techniques like you spend 5 to 10 minutes doing nothing, and it can really restart your willpower too. There are apps for that. There is an app that is called Headspace. Maybe you know that. There are 10 minutes meditations, it's science-based, and it can really improve your willpower and decrease your procrastination. And there is an app named Simple Habit. It's even simpler. It has 5-minute meditations. So restarting the willpower during the day is very important. So work 1 hour, then go for a walk, then work another hour, then do Headspace, do mindfulness, then work another hour, and so on. So having a regular rest through the day can really boost your productivity. It's the core. And the second important idea of this chapter is that you can really increase the capacity of your glass. That's the phenomenon I called, I explained like neuroplasticity. More you train your willpower, stronger willpower you have. So, and it needs longer time to be fully drained. So how to train the willpower? Well, this is maybe the most important picture out of all, because it combines those two concepts, the concept of personal vision and the concept of action. And if you have a very good personal vision, not only your rider needs to go there, but you really should find a way how to push your elephant towards your vision. And of course, on the way to our ideal life, there are some obstacles, mostly emotional. Like you know that you want to do something that is important in your vision, but your elephant doesn't want to do that. For example, you have in your vision then you want to have a family, so sometimes you have to get to know to a new person and so on. You have, for example, in your vision that you want to have a healthy lifestyle. That means that you need to go out and do something, and so on and so on. So at the end, this aversion your elephant has against the task really increase the chance of procrastination. There's only one group of people, they don't procrastinate. You know who they are? Psychopaths. Yeah? Really, psychopaths. Psychopaths, they have an injury of the brain that is called, they have damaged amygdala that is part of the brain there, and they don't feel those negative emotions. So psychopaths, they don't procrastinate because they don't have elephants, so they have simpler life. But they are there is only 1% psychopaths in a society, so maybe 1 or 2 of you only. So, yeah. But us, the rest, we have our elephants. So how to solve this problem? You're going to remember this. Don't threaten your elephants. This is very important. If you want to start with something, beware of this paralysis of big changes and start with small steps. Science calls this micro habits. It's not important what you do, like the amount, but what is important is to do it regularly. So at the beginning, you should use the lower bar. For example, if you want to start running tomorrow, it's not a wise idea to go and try to run 5 kilometers. I don't know in foot how much is it, but you understand me. And it's better to tell yourself to go out and run only a few hundred meters, or go out and go back again. There's always lower bar. Take your clothes, running clothes, go out and go back. It's simple. But if you repeat it regularly, you form a new habit, and with repetition, it's getting easier and easier. Sometimes you need only 5 repetitions, sometimes 10, 20, 30. It's science, it's not clear in this, but what is important is you start with small amount and you repeat it. Micro habits are the key to boost your willpower. And after you are fine with running a few hundred of meters, then you can increase the bar, and at the end you train and you, for example, you are able to run half marathon or something. To put this idea in graph, there's on this axis is quantity, on this axis is time. So at the beginning, you should start with minimal level. You should not threaten your elephant. Then, if you form the habit, you can increase the bar, and by this you train your willpower. So all Japanese, they know the same. So I'm gonna teach you another Japanese word, and I'm gonna explain you the word kaizen on another picture. Because Japanese samurais, they train them in the way that every day they try to overcome themselves in some small things. So because we people, we are unable to do big change from day to day. Because if we are trying to do the big change, we have very big chance that we fail. And the failure decreases our self-esteem, and at the end, it's much worse than it was in the beginning. So trying to change everything day to day is not a good idea. What is a good idea is to do small step. Go and run a few hundred of meters, and if you succeed, you have positive emotion, and then if you repeat it, you form a new habit, and at the end, you can overcome the big challenges. So kaizen is a Japanese word for small changes. And so basically you need to understand only 2 Japanese words. Ikigai for vision and kaizen for action. So it's that simple. I told you. So, and we have a special tool for that. We call this tool everyday heroism because it's very important to focus on overcoming of ourselves on everyday basis. To stand up with first alarm clock in the morning is a little heroism. Yeah, to stop next to accident is a bigger heroism. To change habit is also heroism, and so on and so on. And I learned this skill and this tool from Professor Zimbardo. He's a well-known psychologist. Maybe you know him. he did the controversial Stanford prison experiment. It was a very famous experiment. It was filmed 2 times. And in that experiment, he put like a group of people. He divided into 2 groups. First, there were inmates. The second were prison guards. And after a few days, they had to stop the experiment because the guards were like doing very nasty things to the inmates. So, and there was a first study that shows us that if there is authority, we really sometimes are unable to resist that authority. There is more studies on that, not only Zimbardo studies. And I'm gonna explain you the key findings out of this. I met Zimbardo 3 times. First, I met him like 8 years ago, so that's me 8 years ago. And we met, and I really like one quote, and Zimbardo wrote in his book, Time Paradox. It's written like, the core of your life can be reduced to 2 types of actions, those taken and those not taken. And when I met Zimbardo, I asked him what is his like personal solution, how to fight procrastination. I asked him, okay, when I know what to do, how to do it, how to like really be there, like to really take the action. And Zimbardo did very strange thing. He took my black marker and he put a big black dot on his forehead and was like, what? And he started to describe and he started to explain me what is the reason why he did that. And he told me that we have 2 kinds of comfort zones. Like the physical comfort zone, you can imagine that like bed in the morning, and we have a social comfort zone. It's much important that we are part of crowd, we are somewhere in the heart, and outside of that comfort zone is this comfort zone. And he told me that they did research. If you go outside with the black dot on your forehead, the greater chance is that if you see a problem, you really act. Because you are able to overcome yourself, and you can train this. So you can train heroism. You can train the ability to step out of comfort zone and to really act. And they did that research with kids. One group of kids had a black dot on their foreheads, and the others, they didn't. And the group with the black dot, they helped much more often. So Zimbardo really describes that heroism is ability to be different and to overcome the negative emotion to be different. So sometimes Zimbardo says that being a hero is like being a little deviant, be able to be different. And if you act, if you do something that is like the little heroism, you feel positive emotions. So, for example, if you go and you see an accident and you stop there and you helped, after that you are rewarded by positive emotions, by the emotion of purpose and the emotion of like accomplishment. So this is a very key concept of the book, how to train heroism, because you don't have a kid that is a hero and another that is not. It's ability we learn during our lives. So again, the brain has capacity of neuroplasticity, so we can train this ability on everyday basis. Gandhi said, overcoming fear is the first step to success. Exactly, because at the beginning, you always need to do something that is outside of the comfort zone. If you want to try something new, if you want to try a new job, if you want to try a new habit, and so on, at the beginning, it starts with negative emotion, and heroism is about to act. It's not about not to feel the emotion. You feel it, but you are able to overcome it. And there is maybe better quote on that, even better quote, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein again. And it follows like this. The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever seen before. This is so important, to overcome the herd and to act differently than the others. And there is a lot of research why people sometimes do evil. And as I said, we have only 1% of psychopaths. They don't feel emotion, so they don't have empathy. But they are only 1%, so why is that much evil outside? The second reason where the evil is like born is that the evil is born in crowds. Yeah, and it slowly escalates. It was the case of the Stanford prison experiment. There was no psychopath who started to punish the inmates first day, but the evil was growing gradually day to day. And the second reason of evil is passivity. Like I was born in a small city, like only 100,000 of people are living there. And 3 years ago, a man died in a train station. And they checked the cameras, the CCTV, and they saw that he was dying there 10 minutes. He was dying there in a train station, and there were literally tens of people crossing by. Even 2 girls were sitting like few meters there. They were eating something and watching to him, and they let him die. Yeah. And maybe they weren't bad people inside, but they were unable to act. They were not Zimbardo's heroes. So what is really important is to act. Japanese samurais, they had a tool, and they call it a tool of 3 heartbeats. If you have the chance to do something heroic, like to help someone, you have only 3 seconds to act, like 3, 2, 1, and then act. Because if you wait, your brain comes up with excuses and with some kind of rationalization why not to stop there, for example. So to act is very important, and if the first man stops there, the others follow. Yeah. So it's very important to be the first one to act and use the rule of 3 heartbeats. It's very useful, and this has a very huge impact in our society these days, because this is Germany, like 30s, and you see that everyone is like saluting Hitler. That guy, no, not, and it's very important to be that guy. Not to follow the crowd if the crowd goes somewhere in a bad direction. And I had a lot of big presentations around the globe. And for me, one very important presentation was last year in Moscow. My book was published in Russia, and I had a big presentation in Moscow, in the University of Skolkovo. 1 week before me, there was Putin and Medvedev. So I was like, okay, now maybe I have a chance to like do something important. And I had a big presentation in front of 300 people, and my presentation was about heroism, about ability to act, even if it's dangerous, even if the majority doesn't act, and so on. And my presentation ended with this quote: "The only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And yeah, the hall was very silent in that moment. And I really think that all of us, we should do this all around the globe, because we are a global society. Now there's no huge difference between living in Europe, living in US. We have the similar problems. We have similar like populist division of society. And I really think that we need people with values, but with ability to act in the important moments. And the society everywhere is divided between us and them. And what is the problem of this division is that there's a phenomenon called in-group bias. In-group bias means that you don't feel empathy for the others. For example, there was a research on fMRI, and they scanned the brain, and if someone do something bad to someone from your group, you feel empathy. But if someone do something bad to someone from other group, you don't feel empathy. And there are psychopaths, they feel nothing all the time. And this in-group bias, it can result in really terrible things. Like you maybe remember when the politician from UK was killed because she was from the opposite group. And that's the problem we all have. Like all global society has this kind of in-group bias problem. And I think that there is a solution of that. And it's not divide us into us and them and find what unites us. Because it's easy to find what divides us, but what is much important to find things that unite us. And I really believe in some universal values that can be shared with all of us around the globe. And I want to describe those values to you now. Our former president, Václav Havel, he had a speech in front of US Congress, and he got standing ovations there. And he used to say one very important sentence. If you are from Czech Republic, you know that sentence. It's truth and love must prevail over lies and hatred. I really believe that this is so important these days. To find values that unite us and to overcome the in-group bias dividing the society between us and them. And there was a very important quote from Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, he got the Nobel Prize, and he lived till his, I think, 1905, 1906. And he did a very important interview for BBC, and he was about 90 years old. And they asked him what is the main message he wants to share with the next generations. And I'm gonna read this, because from Russell, it was very strong. He said something like, love is wise, hatred is foolish. In this world, which is getting more and more closely interconnected, we have to learn to tolerate each other. We have to learn to put up with the fact that some people say things that we don't like. We can only live together in that way, and if we are to live together and not die together, we must learn a kind of charity and kind of tolerance, which is absolutely vital to the continue of human life on this planet. So, that was Russell's description of the same idea. And he said that as the main idea that he wants to pass to the next generations. So I really believe that those two values are important. The first is truth. That's the critical thinking. That's the ability to find facts and to fight fake news. And the second main value I have and I want to share is love. That is Ego 2.0, doing something meaningful, doing something that is based on some moral values. So it's simple again, but it's now very important to start to live those values. Because if we want to change something in a society, and as I said that we are a global society, so it doesn't matter where we live, we should start with ourselves. Because if we change our behavior, we can influence small groups, like our friends, like our families, and even our workspace. Like if you are a leader and you are leading a company, or if you are a manager and you manage a few people, you really can influence them by your values. Leadership is about values, authentic values. And then, slowly, maybe we can change the society. And I really believe this model. That's why I moved from Prague, where I had almost everything. I moved here, beginning from the beginning, because I really believe that this is important. So, because the world is interconnected. So, let me summarize my whole talk. I start with a quote, with a proverb from Japan: vision without action is a daydream, and action without vision is a nightmare. And I explained that we need both. We need both vision and both action. For vision, we have a tool. We call it personal vision. And we have a Japanese word for that. It's ikigai. And for action, we have another tool from Professor Zimbardo that is called everyday heroism. Japanese word for that is kaizen. And those two tools together can really improve your lives, decrease your procrastination, and increase the level of your positive emotions during the whole life. So, at the end, I want to sum it up with one last story. I had this picture in my presentation like 8 years, and I was thinking, wow, that's a beautiful place. And like half a year ago, I really found that place. Yeah? And it was one of the best moments in my life because it was beautiful. It was in Japan, and it really describes the proverb. I had a vision to find a place, and then I performed that action. I actually went there. So for me, it was one of the strongest moments of my life, and I really believe that if I procrastinate, I never had such an experience. So for me, procrastination is something that we really should fight and we really should overcome, because at the end, if we procrastinate less, we have more and more positive stories, emotions, and so on. And it's not only about us, it's also about the society, as I explained. So thank you very much, and I wish you to take some ideas out of my presentation and apply them in your life. I want to be here so we can have a glass of wine together. There are books, so I can sign a book for you. You can follow us on social media, like at Petr Ludwig or at Adela Schicker, or if you want something, you can mail us. So from now, thank you very much, and in a moment, we're gonna open the bottle of champagne and celebrate. So thank you very much. See you.